listening to pause. We pause for a second or two. This is episode 122. Unsettling AI faces. Online, right now, a new phenomenon has begun, and that is that people are generating, as it's called, using AIs to generate human faces. So what one can do, anyone, is to just enter a prompt, write in a prompt into this AI, and in a matter of a few seconds, the programming or the software will generate what looks almost like a real human face. And now this technology has gone so far, or come so far, so that the faces, the images of the faces, almost looks like real images, like real people. These images are being presented and promoted as remarkable and fascinating. That can we really tell the difference between a real person's face and a non-existing AI face? And that there is promoted a sort of fabricated fascination of this. Can we really tell the difference? And these images of these AI faces are also being used for a multitude of different political ambitions. They are used to advance some politics and to diminish other politics. Today's episode is called Unsettling AI Faces. And we will discuss 3 different aspects of these AI faces and how they affect us emotionally. The Polaroid, the skill, the emotional skill for today's episode, is universal skill body. And that is because how we view, how we perceive human faces is very extremely deeply embedded in how we function as people socially. To highlight this point, we can think about when we were infants, when we were newborns. Our first source of visual information came from looking at our parents' faces. That's our first source of visual information. Before we look at the world, we look at faces. So, starting with number one, the first emotional consequence of these AI faces. When we enter the prompt into the AI, when we write what we want the AI to create, when we write what kind of face it should create, the image is being generated in a matter of a few seconds, a mere few seconds. And this being the case, when something we ask for is being generated in a convincingly detailed way, in a matter of just a few seconds, our instinctual reaction, our sort of emotional reaction to this, whether we like it or not, will be that it feels like magic. It does feel like magic. And that is extremely powerful, that we ask for something and is given something magical in return, something that feels magical. And throughout history, it has proven impossible, near impossible, for people to not become submissive to something they view as magical. If you can convince someone that something is magical, they will submit. They will listen. They will not try to be dominant against it. That is our first. Our second emotional aspect of these unsettling AI faces is that if we look at the texture of the faces, if we look at the skin of the faces, something about them feels wrong. Something about them feels unsettling, but it is difficult to put your finger on what. But when we think about it for a while, and maybe allow ourselves to think more uncomfortable thoughts, then we will see that these AI faces look like corpses. And this is a very heavy aspect of these AI faces. If we are being truthful to how they feel emotionally, they do not feel alive because they are not alive. They do not feel anything. They do not have any capillaries in their skin where blood rush through as they are feeling something. Their eyes are not experiencing anything. They do not have eyes. It's just an image. So technically, it looks almost like a real face. But since it is not a photo of a real face, since it is not a real person, we will instinctively, deep inside, interpret this image to be an image of a corpse. Someone not feeling something. Someone dead. This is very uncomfortable to think about, but it is part of the explanation why these images are so unsettling on a very subtle, deep level. The third aspect that we will talk about, how these AI faces affect us emotionally, is that these faces are generated with thousands of bits and pieces from different faces. So if we look at the corner of the eye, or the corner of the mouth, or the cheek, or the nose, or the eyebrow, or whatever in this face, the different parts are not coherent. They do not belong together. In a quick glance, it will look like they belong together. But emotionally, we are very sensitive to faces. We are more sensitive to faces than to any other visual stimuli. So since the faces are not coherent, since it does not fit together, it is not a coherent face. It's not a person. It's just an image imitating a person. Since that is the case, our emotional brain, trying to figure out what kind of person is this, what kind of face is this, what is the face feeling, what is the face communicating, what is the intention behind the face. Since it has no intention, it has no feeling, it is not a person, it is a mishmash of thousands of different fragments of persons and images, then our social brain will be completely overwhelmed. We do not know what we're looking at. And we go mildly insane from looking at these faces. When a person is feeling unwell, a real person is feeling unwell, then there will manifest some asymmetries in this person's face. Like the left and the right side of the face might communicate different things, so as to communicate to other people that the person is not feeling well. And we are very, very sensitive to these kinds of asymmetries. Our social instinct is very fine-tuned to such asymmetries in faces. So, when we are confronted with this new AI face, it is similar to looking at a picture of a mentally ill person whose face is very asymmetrical in an emotional way, asymmetrical. It does not fit together. It does not communicate a coherent emotional message to us. It's artificial. It's clumsy. Nature and the faces that nature creates is anything but clumsy. And these images of generated AI faces is clumsy. And in extension, if we as adults would present these images of these AI faces to young children and infants, they will develop issues. They will be deeply, deeply confused by what they are watching. So this generation now, being children now, looking at these AI faces, will interact socially with other people in a very unpredictable way. And that remains to be seen in the future, how this generation of children will turn out. It is very unfortunate. And we will see. So in conclusion, if we combine these three emotional aspects of these unsettling AI faces, 1, we cannot help but submit ourselves to them because they are generated so fast that we feel that they are magical. 2, they are not alive and they look like corpses. So we will be deeply disturbed by looking at dead faces, and we will be deeply agitated and develop tension, deep tension, social tension. And 3rd, the faces are not coherent. They are not communicating something coherent emotionally. So we will view them as mentally ill, and they will scare us, basically. And these 3 aspects combine into a force to be reckoned with. These AI-generated faces will change many social phenomena in our society. They work on a very instinctual, deep level, and the consequence of them will be that people will be unsettled, people will feel scared, people will think of death, people will think of mental illness, and people will have a hard time not submitting themselves to these new images. They are very powerful. They feel magical. So they will be a force to be reckoned with, and they will be used extensively from all kinds of people. That's it for today. Thank you.